Hello, welcome back to the channel. Something slightly different on this video. As you know, it's more of a motorcycle channel this is, but today I'm going to talk about the restoration and modification, or resto mod as they call it, of my youngest daughter's first car, her Mini, a classic Mini, not to be confused with the modern BMW hatchback. This was the classic Mini. This was back in 1997. The deal with the two daughters, I've got two daughters, the eldest one's Charlotte, the youngest one's Lucy. The deal was that when they were old enough to drive, we would pay for the driving lessons and buy them the first car, and they were gone from there. Now Charlotte had a Mini as her first car, my eldest daughter, back in the 90s, plenty of them about, good prices, easy to drive, good insurance prices. So she had hers, and then when Lucy was coming up to the age for driving, she decided, yeah, we'll have a Mini, we'll have another Mini, because we knew about them, so we'll have another Mini. But Lucy wanted something maybe a little bit different, so we bought this one in 1997, and as you can see it up here, it was a Mini Ritz, a standard Mini 1000, Mini Ritz as it was called at the time. Paid £475 for it on May the 16th 1997, and the original plan was, I mean, who wants a silver Mini? It was horrible, so we were just going to change the colour. Subsequently, if you've seen one of my other videos a few months ago now, where I talked about the Yamaha the Yamaha I did that got me back into motorcycling, if you watch that, I do make a statement at one point where I said it got completely out of hand. The Mini did as well, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, it turned out quite well. But with the aid of notes and photographs that we kept at the time, the Mini actually got featured in a national magazine as well. So I'll take you on the journey of how we went about this restoration modification and how it turned out in the end. So here we have it, one silver Mini Ritz as purchased. Interior was reasonable, you know, tatty but reasonable. Engine bay, again reasonable. It drove and stopped okay. A bit rattly on the top end, but you know, what can be expected. So then we decided we're going to repaint it. The logical thing would be to take all the chrome off of it and the glass, take the glass out. That's what we'll do. We'll take the glass out, we'll take the chrome off, we'll go from there. Not a chance once we got into it, not a chance. By now we'd realised that it wasn't just going to be glass and chrome, it was going to be, the engine came out, trim came out, and pretty soon, within days, we were down to a bare shell. So we were now committed, as they say. Right, so now we've virtually got a bare shell, and we'd found rot where we didn't think there was any rot. This is the sort of thing you find out when you've got carpets out and trim and whatever, and the engine bay was exposed, so we're pretty sure that we got a lot of rot. So I must point out at this stage that we were working in a rented lock-up garage round the corner from where we lived at the time. No heating, no power, no light, no nothing. So, and we were now into October, November time, so it was starting to get cold, and the nights were the days were shorter, so we were limited. At the time Lucy was working, she got a part-time job at a bakery, and So she was working there, and all the parts, well, virtually all the parts that we purchased were purchased from a mini specialist in Hockley Heath, about 20 mile from here, 15-20 mile from here. So Lucy would she would she would get her wages on a Friday, and then we'd take a trip up to Mini Ritz, as it was called then. They're not in business anymore, I've just checked. But anyway, this guy was very good with us. He knew we were on a budget, and I think he gave us discount when he really shouldn't have done. But anyway, she would get paid on a Friday, and we basically toddle off up M42 to Mini Ritz on a Saturday and spend all the wages. But it was getting a bit cold in the garage at this point, so we decided now it was time to start getting the shell ready for body repairs and paint. One other thing I forgot to mention was the idea of getting the bodywork done in the winter was a friend of mine, Kevin Mason, who had his own business, his own garage, not far from here. He was going to tackle the bodywork and the welding and ultimately painting thing. So as it was getting colder now, it was time to get it off to Kevin. Now Kevin raced in the Mini Miglia series. I raced a Mini in the Mini Miglia series. So he knew what he was doing with the Minis. Now all these Mini Miglias had detachable front. Steel front, steel wings, front panel. He did away with the inner wings as well, and you braced the subframe with the steel box section. So as the Mini, we'd found a lot of rot. As I mentioned before, we found a lot of rot in it, and the one ring was scrap and the front panel was scrap. So as we were having those anyway and they'd got to come off, we decided to go down the detachable front route. And again, as I say, all in steel, so it wouldn't compromise the structure. It would just make it a hell of a lot easier to work on further down the line, and it would make the car different. So that's what we decided to do. The other thing I forgot to mention was when we bought the car, Lucy, in May 97, Lucy was 16. She wasn't 17 until the October of that year, so she couldn't, we'd got time, she hadn't got a driving licence, and then she got to do a driving lessons and take a test and hopefully pass, which she did. She passed first time, as my eldest daughter did, Charlotte. They both passed first time, but we got a bit of time, so off the shell was going to go to Kevin Mason's to now I did some work for, my background was in precision engineering, and I did help Kevin out. I did some machining for him and some grinding for his Mini race engines, and the deal was I'd do that for him and he'd help us out with the welding and the painting and whatever on Lucy's Mini. So that was the deal there. So here's Lucy with the new front panel and the one wing. There they are. Took some of the bits home that's the boot lid being prepared. Lots of rust. You see one of the bracing bars. There's more rust, new panel in there. Plenty of, there's the new floor plans and inner sills that Kevin's been put in, and there we have the detachable front. And there we have the completed shell, more or less, ready for paint. Right, so now we've got the shell back at the garage. We had it back because Kevin needed to do some of his own, to do some paid work. He was doing ours at a highly reduced cost, so we had it back to the garage while he got on, and we decided to make a start on the engine. As I said, we'd driven it, or I'd driven it. Engine was strong. It was a Mini 1000cc 998 engine. It seemed okay. The clutch cylinder was a bit suspect, so we're going to change that anyway. I think the starter motor was a bit weak, so we put another starter motor on, I think. But excuse me, we took the head off, and I decided we'd check the bores. So I was working for myself at the time, so precision grinder. So I brought some diatest equipment home, and we checked the bores, or Lucy. I got Lucy involved. She checked the bores, and they were fine. They were well within tolerance. No need to strip the bottom end, take the pistons out or anything. So that was fine. We just decided to do a bit of work on the head. I cleaned the combustion chambers up. Didn't port it or anything. Didn't think that was necessary. But I did find that the valve guides were way out of line to the valve seats. So they came out. I jig ground the valve guide holes perfectly in line with the seats. I actually ground the seats on the jig grinder at 45 degrees. I ground the valves themselves at 45 degrees. They sealed perfectly, didn't really need lapping in. I think I just put a bit of brasso on them or something just to bed them in. New valve guides. I made the valve guides actually because I'd reground the holes in the casting to be in line with the valve seats, and we went from there. We repainted the engine. It was very scruffy, and then we basically got that ready to drop back in after it was painted. So that's the next little section of photographs you'll see now. So, engine's complete as a unit, as a sub-assembly as we call it. So now it was time for Kevin to have the shell back for painting. He'd done the detachable front and strengthened the front subframe with the bracing bar. So now we have to choose a colour. As I said, we're trying to keep it to a budget. So Kevin at the time was racing in the Mini series with his car, and his colours, his KDM team colours if you like, were yellow and blue, as you can see here on the photograph. So he always had plenty of that paint in stock because the Mini series, it was a little bit of a contact sport at times, so he's always having to repaint his own race car. So as I say, he had a lot of that paint, yellow and blue, available, so we thought, well, we'll go down that road. Now, there's not a lot you can do with a Mini as far as colour schemes go, and you can have the roof a different colour, I know, but basically there's a picture here, this is before the days of fancy computer graphic programs, well, for us anyway. So we cut out a picture of the silhouette of a Mini out of a magazine, and we coloured it in with pencils. Now I based it on, I remember the Patrick Motors Racing Mini Clubmans from the 70s and 80s. There's a picture there. We based this design on that, with the broad stripe down the door and across the bonnet. So this is where we got the colour scheme from, and then off it went to Kevin's for the paintwork. So here we have the car at Kevin's. He's put the blue stripe. He's painted the blue stripe on across the bonnet and down the sides, and he's done the roof blue. And here we are with the finished colour scheme. It's got the yellow on now, and we're back at our little lock-up. So we've got a shell, and it's starting to look like a car now. So here you can see we soon had the engine back into the subframe. You can clearly see there the two bracing bars from the bulkhead down to the front of the subframe, which strengthens the front up. This is the carburettor. Now I'm pretty sure Kevin found us the inlet manifold and carb off an MG Metro. Our carburettor was in pretty poor condition, so we put a service kit in this one and refitted it with the slightly better inlet manifold. Here we have we went with the long centre branch exhaust manifold and the 1 3/4 centre exit single box exhaust system. And here's Lucy having having great fun trying to fit it. And here we have it. New battery. Started it first time. Lo and behold, started first time. What a morning! What a morning that was, as you can see from the picture. So now we had a running, driving Mini, basically. So now it was time to, before we got onto the interior, it was time to make it stop and steer and drive. So we basically replaced every ball joint, every suspension joint, front discs, put new pads in, seal kits everywhere they were needed. So here's a few photographs of the process we went down for the brakes. Didn't get many photographs of the suspension parts, but we did replace them, I can assure you. So as I mentioned before, my job was precision grinding, so I took Lucy into work and Lucy set about regrinding the mating faces on the rear of the drums, and then internal grinding the bores of the rear brake drums. They were pretty oval, so it would have stopped any juddering. Airlines don't bite, Lucy. And there's the reground drum on the left and the manky one on the right. And here's some of the brake components that we fitted. You can see we used copper brake pipe throughout, all over. We made all the new pipes ourselves. So basically we've got the shell painted, we've got the engine in, the engine's running, we've got all the brakes, suspension done. So it's now to turn our attention to the interior. Also, we were in March now, March 98, and Lucy's test was booked for March. So we were getting to the point where we needed to start getting a move a little bit. Now the interior, we got nearly all the parts from Fletcher's, an outlet in Birmingham, Great Leicester Street, which again has gone now, but they had all sorts, all the rubber seals, the carpet, the bits we couldn't get from there, which were they were a cheap outlet, but they got all the offcuts and the discontinued lines, so we used them a lot. There was another upholstery company called Marston's in Birmingham, and we used them for some of the bits we couldn't get from Fletcher's, but there was again a bit more shopping. We bought the radio as well, so we could and plywood. We had to buy plywood for the dash because we were doing a custom dash, if you like. Kevin got us a three dial. Kevin Mason got us a 3-dial binnacle, so we changed that. Anyway, here's some of the photographs from that section of it. So we made the dash in 3 sections, centre, right and left. We did cut a hole for the glove box, by the way. There it is, fitted into the car with the 3-clock binnacle and the 2 air vents. Recovered the top of the dash with the blue vinyl, which virtually matched the paintwork. Bang on, really. We made some new door cards, which were pretty simple, and recovered those. There's all the fittings. There's the dash. There's the dash fitted. And there it is, complete. We did obviously made a lid for the glove box as well, but you can see the radio's in as well. So we acquired a set of 4 Mini Light wheels for the Mini off Kevin Mason again, with good tyres on them. Right, starting to fit the brightwork now. Here's a new bumper going on the back, and there it is fitted. We're really on the home stretch now. We can got the fitting the number plate. No Mini is complete without a bullet mirror. It was just a case of putting all the glass back in. Front and rear screens went back in, a treat. And then, as if by magic, it was finally finished. We actually finished it in May '98. Lucy did pass a test first time in March, so we just had a couple of months where we were finishing off. There's the boot all trimmed out, carpeted on the inside of the boot lid, new rubbers. It was quite tidy in the end. There it is with the front detachable front off. It was just two Zeus clips on either side by the A panel, and two spring-loaded clips at the very front, either side of the number plate, which held it onto the subframe, with springs behind them to stop any rattling. The electrics were done by a caravan plug, so the indicators, headlights were all connected via a caravan plug on the bulkhead. So it was quite simple. It would be off in, I don't know, 2-3 minutes at the most. So there we were, May '98, all finished. Lucy started driving it. I won't deny there were a few little niggles, a few little rattles here and there. We built it from scratch, so we sorted those out. One or two little, I think the brake lights stopped working. We sorted that out. Just a couple of little niggles, and off she went, and she used it daily. By this time I think she'd left school and gone to work, and yeah, she was using it daily. Now, I think it was towards the end of '98. Yeah, towards the end of '98, I had a phone call off the chap at Mini Ritz, the place where we got most of our parts from, and he had a contact at Mini Magazine, and he said, "Would you mind if I passed your number on?" He said, "I've been talking to the chap. He comes in regular. I've been talking to the chap, and I've told him what you've been doing, and he said it may go in the magazine, may be worth looking at." So the number was passed on. Lo and behold, 2 or 3 weeks later, they sent one of their reporters, come photographer down, and yeah, we'd like to. He was impressed by the colour of it and everything, and we told him the story, and off we went to a local factory centre, disused factory, and he did a load of photographs, and it was featured in the February issue of Mini Magazine. Now originally he said because of the colour of it, it's an attention drawing colour, bright yellow. He said, "I'm sure that will go on the front cover." Anyway, as the magazine came out, that particular month, you can see on the front there, we didn't make the front cover. What happened was there was a new Cooper S Works launched, and of course that was going to get the front cover. But I think as a bit of a consolation, we got the centre spread, so that was a bit of a consolation. He did a four-page cover of it, you know. So yeah, we were quite. That made the Mini Magazine, and then a few months, 4 or 5 weeks after that, the magazine wrote to Lucy a letter saying that every year they do a big show in Oxfordshire. It's called Mini in the Park, and would she agree to driving down there with the car and putting it on display on their main display stand, if you like, along with several other cars, which yeah, great, we did. We had a great day out. We drove down to Oxford, and it was put on display. Only one little thing that was happening was the other cars, I think there was 6 or 7 Minis in a row on the Mini Magazine stand at this show, and I know at least three of them had come on a trailer. They were concourse condition cars, they were. Of course, people were looking around these cars, and we took the front off. They asked us to take the front off because that was one of the main features of the car, obviously. And as I say, this car was a daily driver. Lucy used it day in, day out, and there was a few stone chips here and there and a few little things, and people were nitpicking basically. They were coming up to the car and poking it, and oh look, there's a stone chip here. Of course, compared to the others, they hadn't got any stone chips on. They were immaculate. Anyway, I got a piece of cardboard and wrote on, "This car is used daily, therefore it will have the odd chip here and there. And I think that did the trick. So yeah, all in all we had a great day out. The car was featured in the magazine at a show, so I think we did a reasonable job. It drew attention. Anyway, a while after, I can't remember the exact time now, it might have been a couple of years after that, Lucy got a good job by then, and I think she wanted something a bit more modern, which is understandable, young lady about town and all that. So she bought herself a Clio, a Renault Clio, about a year old I think, and the Mini, we were going to sell it and she could put the money towards what she spent on the Clio. So we decided to put it in, to advertise it in the specialist magazine who had featured the car. So it was coming up to Christmas time, and the car was also on the drive, and we'd put a sign in the window, for sale, inquire within, or put the phone number on or whatever, while we were waiting for it to come into the magazine, which was going to be in the January edition, or the magazine that came out in January. Anyway, we got the in-laws, my wife's parents were coming to stay for Christmas, so we needed space on the drive, so I put it back round in a lock-up garage. So we got space on the drive. Anyway, I think it was Boxing Day or maybe the day after that, there was a knock on the door. We'd had no interest at all on the drive. A knock on the door, a young man standing there, guy in his mid-20s I suppose. He said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry for bothering you, but is that Mini still for sale? It seems to have gone." I says, "Yeah, we've still got it. It's in the garage at the moment." He said, he sighed a big sigh of relief sort of thing. I says, "Why?" He said, I'd like to buy it." I said, "Well, why didn't you?" He said, "I've walked past it and I've looked at it several times, you know." And I said, "Well, why didn't you say anything before? Why didn't you knock on the door before?" He said, well, the immortal words came out of his mouth was, "I didn't know how much I wanted it until I thought it had gone." Sold. So he paid the full price. I think he paid about, I don't know, $2,000 for it. Now, it hadn't cost us that, but it was close. I'll put the costs up at the end here. I'll put the costs, what it cost us, but yeah, we made a little bit of profit. It wouldn't cover our time that we spent on it, but basically the parts that we spent on it. So I'll put the costs up towards the end, and you can freeze. If you're watching it on the TV, you can freeze frame if you want to study them. But Lucy and I thoroughly enjoyed the build, and I think we came out of it at the end with a decent looking vehicle, which she got great pleasure out of driving for a while. But anyway, I'll wrap that up for now. It's gone on long enough, I think. And if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, I'd be very grateful. It does help. It's completely free of charge, and it helps me analyse what's being watched. So until the next one, bye for now.